Recently, the Palm Springs Kiwanis Club had another great speaker. Let's listen in.
I've been in this for 40 years doing presentations to high schools, to Kiwanis, to different groups. Usually two areas people ask about. One is MUFON, Mutual UFO Network, of which I've been a member for quite some time. And of course in my profession, in meteorology. And instead of making a lengthy presentation, I want you all to kind of think about what would you like to ask the guy you see on TV? Why is he wrong so often? Or something like that. Yeah. I do want to tell you one little bit of news. First, when I started these, say 40 years ago, I could walk into a classroom and I thought I understood lightning, thunder and lightning. Very simple. I mean, friction caused between the particles, you get lightning. Well, that's not the case now anymore. We've discovered that we thought we knew everything. We know very little about lightning. NASA was trying to do some research, or was doing research, into antimatter. And they sent a satellite up, and for the moment I've just forgotten the name of the particular satellite, but they were looking for antimatter in deep space. And the way the unit works, it goes up, it's a geostationary orbit, looks off into deep space, and hopefully it's going to detect lightning. It's going to detect antimatter in some type of lightning or some type of electrostatic charge. But what happened was, out of the corner of the satellite's eye, it could see the Earth, and it was getting all of these positive results. It was finding antimatter within the clouds. We never dreamed. Now, this is all new in the last 5 years. So what you're hearing is really, hasn't been much press on it. But there is antimatter that is produced in lightning. Not only that, we have discovered that lightning extends up maybe as much as 100 miles into the atmosphere. There are two forms of lightning, spritz, and spritz is probably the most common. It is red particles shooting out from the lightning itself, from the parent particles. And also we have a blue lightning now. And the two of those, the jets, the two of those working together in combination with antimatter, with what we thought was lightning from the friction, that's what generates lightning. Now we're all sitting back going, wonder how and why this happens. And just a few years ago, we thought we had it figured out. But no, that's the rest of the story that we're going to have to research over the upcoming decades to find something out about. They were so involved in thinking about this CERN, the Large Hadron Collider, was going to generate the end of the world or something. No, our thunderstorms are generating more antimatter, actually, than our thunderstorms are generating more than CERN. So it's very interesting research. The other area of research that's going on is called black lightning or dark lightning. That's a new one. It is not visible. It's only measurable by a certain detector. And black lightning apparently generates a pulse of cosmic radiation. In fact, this is very preliminary, but there may be exposure on aircraft to people, maybe getting as much as a lifetime of X-rays in one strike of dark lightning. But it only strikes at around 35 to 45,000 feet. That's the only location on it. It doesn't strike the Earth, and it isn't higher up. It's just at that particular area. And there are even some thinking that it may be the cause of some people who come down with cancer out of absolutely no risk factors. They may have been exposed to a brief cosmic event that was dark lightning. So You'll have to keep your ears open over the coming months and years, because that's where the research is going to be. What is this, and what is new? So as we get more sensors and things into outer space and up off the Earth, our forecasts not only become better, but we can better understand the elements that make up weather. Now that brings us, now I'm going to open up for questions here in a moment. That brings us to one of the things. Why is the weatherman wrong so often? Well, actually, when you take the nation as a whole, the forecast on the 36-hour forecast is about 80% correct. Something in that neighborhood, that ballpark. And we are now really beginning to improve on our forecasting 5, 6, and 7 days out. We're still not much better than a toss-up, though, with a coin. But research is being done. There was just in the past year, NASA got a grant, plus they got a large input of funds that will be shared with NASA and the National Weather Service. And we have a huge new supercomputer, a Cray unit, that is going to be running these atmospheric models. And the way a model works, I'll rush through this, but a computer model, takes a cubic meter of air. Think how many cubic meters of air are on this parking lot and just out here around the cars. Meter, meter, meter. It takes that and moves it forward 7.5 minutes. Then it says, now what's that cubic meter of air going to do? It moves it forward another 7.5 minutes. It keeps doing this over and over and over, tens of thousands of times across the period of one day. It takes almost a complete day for the computers to run this. And it then tells me, well, that cubic meter of air is going to be part of a thunderstorm that's going to be over Canada 6 days from now. So it is very complicated, is very sophisticated, and I've always said, if you want a good weather forecaster and you don't have the computers, probably a lot of you here, and particularly boaters and hunters, people that work with the ground, farmers, you can go out and do a lot of forecasting yourself by just merely looking at the sky and knowing that it feels like rain, for example. So the point being, you can be just as good of a forecaster yourself in many instances than what you need. You don't need a multi-million-dollar computer. So on a 24-hour basis, we're getting there. In this profession, and you know this, there are a lot of people in this profession that have a little bit of an attitude problem. Those people are not overly good forecasters. They may look good on TV, they may come across okay, but your good forecasters are the ones that grew up in an area. I don't know how well I could do forecasting for Palm Springs. I don't know if I'd be good or not. But I do know I can do a good job in the Midwest, tornado country, because I know what it looks like and feels like and what to look for so far as bad weather is concerned. So Marcia Yockey was quite a person. That's worth a whole show on itself. Yes, sir.
Yes, I have a question. Where the hell is Indiana?
About halfway to Europe.
My question is this. I summer home in Cape Cod, and we have hurricanes that that originate out there and they come up the coast. And the prediction of arrival is pretty accurate when it's going to hit, say, New England, and we can track it and all that. But right now, thinking in terms of the Midwest, right now, I had a friend of mine who lives in Houston, and I talked to him the other day, and they have been hit. That central part of the country been really hit with disaster.
Yes.
And he said, in a period of, I guess, a couple of hours, he had, whatever inches of rain that he didn't know was coming. Now, what happens you know, that part. I told him, why the hell do you live in that area? It's just, why would you want that whole belt is just a disaster. Way Dallas on up. He said, it's been such a terrible, terrible season.
Yeah.
And what, you know, any way to predict it?
That's based on two things. One is cycles. Every bit of weather works on cycles. You'll have dry spells, you'll have droughts, you'll have winds will change directions, you'll have a monsoon, you won't have a monsoon. It has been a very abnormally strong El Nino or warming of the Pacific Ocean. And that has set us up to where there is something, I think out here you call it the Pineapple Express coming in, storms coming out of Hawaii. Back in the Midwest, we have something kind of new. It's called the Mayan Express. It's coming in across Mexico, the Mayan country, and coming up through the center of the United States. We haven't seen it before. We have not had, we don't see it in records, we don't see it in history, in almanacs and notes that people have kept over the years. We just haven't seen it. But that's what's really setting us up for these huge rains. And the other part of it is just cycles. I mean, you get into a period of drought, but they come in 10-year cycles, 20-year cycles, and occasionally they all overlap. When they overlap, that's when you get those 100-year events, or what you would call that. The more we study the planets, the more that we know there's a huge amount of different weather throughout the solar system. But one thing comes to mind right off, it's the solar cycle. Every 11 years we get the sunspots and all. The sun can lose 2 or 3% of its output, and that in turn makes that pavement maybe a little cooler, maybe not quite as hot that year. And that in turn then sets us up for big bad winters in the Midwest or in Canada. You have to realize something when it comes to global warming or planetary change, whatever you want to call it, it is happening. Are we responsible? Yeah. We are to a certain degree. Are cycles part of it? Yeah, cycles are part of it. Do we understand it? Nope, we don't. But mankind is certainly part of it. Now you have to keep in mind the jet stream isn't just that little dipping strong winds across the United States. That goes across the Atlantic, into Europe, into Russia, back around and round and around it goes. So just because we're having global warming doesn't mean it's not going to be colder. It just means that things are going to be stronger. And in the long run, that tends to make things more intense. And so we get stronger cold waves, we get stronger heat waves. And I'm just amazed at the building going on out here. I was telling Dennis, one of these days, you know, we're going to have to pay up. And I'm just afraid that we're down to within a couple of years of running out of water and electricity here on the West Coast. We should be building desalination plants, and next door to every one of those plants, you have to build a power plant, because I mean it just takes huge amounts of power to run those.
But they don't listen, do they? I mean,
no, they don't. It doesn't seem to work. No.
And they just continue to build and to make the place grow up.
Yeah.
They only care about money.
Yep.
That's what it boils down to. That's what it boils down to. But it's going to get to the point where we're going to be forced to do some of this. When you get thirsty, you don't care how much that bottle of water costs. Farmers, hunters, people that can look out, look at the sky. I was telling Dennis, coming in the mountains last night, or coming through the mountains from the airport, I made the comment or something about the clouds. You're not going to see those here in another 15 or 20 minutes. He said, how do you know they're going to fade away or they're going to dry up? It's just one of the cycles that happens. Just open your eyes and learn some of this. So you can do your own forecasting by your sight. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it very much.
For more, go to KIWANIS PALM SPRINGS.org.